Most of you have probably heard Aesop's fable of the scorpion and the frog. But for those of you who haven't, in essence, here it is. A scorpion comes to a river that it can't cross because it can't swim, and it sees a frog down by the shore. And it says, "Oh, Mr. Frog, please carry me across the river on your back." And the frog says, Why should I do that? If I let you climb on my back, you'll sting me." And the scorpion says, "No, no. Why would I do that? If I sting you when we're in the water, I'll drown too. And when we get to the other side, I'll be so grateful that I wouldn't dream of stinging you then." And the frog thinks about this for a minute and doesn't see any holes in the logic. And so he lets the scorpion climb onto his back and starts swimming across the river. And halfway across the river, suddenly he feels the scorpion's stinger stab into his back. And as his body becomes paralyzed and he begins to sink, the frog croaks out, "Why? Why did you do it? Now we'll both drown." And the scorpion says, "I couldn't help it. It's my nature." And they both drown. And I've heard other versions of this where, for instance, the scorpion and the frog both find themselves trapped by rising water on a sandbar or something. So when the scorpion asks the frog to help him, he's actually appealing to the frog's altruism to save his life. But the end is the same. The scorpion stings the frog to death, even though it means that the scorpion dies too. And the scorpion just can't help it. It's his nature. Now this fable seems highly relevant in Hollywood. There are an awful lot of scorpion-natured people in the film business. And I imagine there are in any business. So, other people can readily offer up examples of scorpion-natured people. But in the history of Hollywood, the poster girl for scorpion nature, to me, is Julia Phillips. For those of you who don't know, Julia Phillips was a major Hollywood producer in the 70s. She co-produced The Sting and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. She was the first woman to win an Oscar for producing. But she was also a cokehead and a whole raft of personality problems. And her career blew up spectacularly at the beginning of the 1980s. And I actually forget the details, but many years after she had essentially dug her own grave in Hollywood, she published a tell-all biography called "You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again," where she basically dished the dirt on everyone she had known, including herself. She was very honest about her own flaws, at least some of the time. And this book revitalized her career for a time until she abruptly died of cancer. But the thing that I always remember, I read that autobiography, and the incident in the book that made her my poster girl for scorpion nature was she was describing how at some point she had just completely destroyed her relationships with all these powerful people. She was bemoaning her own nature. She was using clear-eyed self-analysis to see how she had fucked up her life. and she's telling this incident in which somebody, and I forget who, some Hollywood player, you know, the quintessential nice guy, came to her rescue and forestalled the end of her career at that moment. I forget the incident, and I actually tried to use Amazon Search Inside to find it, but I couldn't find a keyword that would give me the page so I could reacquaint myself with this. I read the book like 20 years ago. But as I remember it, she describes herself sitting with this guy in an office or somewhere where he has just saved her bacon. And she understands that she fucked up and that he is a fantastically nice guy who has come to her rescue when he didn't have to, against everyone else who would just like to see her thrown off the face of the earth, is the way I remember it. And as she's describing, as Julia Phillips is describing this in her autobiography, she cannot help, she cannot stop herself from inserting, for no apparent purpose, the most brutal description possible of this poor schlub's appearance and sex appeal. It had absolutely nothing to do with with what she was talking about. She just couldn't stop herself. Boom. Scorpion nature. But clearly the scorpion fable strikes a lot of other people in Hollywood as being germane to their problems. And it's interesting, the reason I'm even telling this is a few years ago there was this moment, I can't remember exactly how many years ago it was, when all of a sudden I started hearing a bunch of different people, Hollywood big shots in the press, telling the scorpion fable. But what was funny was, in every case, they told it differently. They didn't tell the real Aesop's fable. In their version, the frog got the scorpion all the way to the other shore, and then the scorpion stung the frog. And as the frog is dying, the scorpion walks away saying, "Hey, it's my nature." Which, of course, completely defeats the insight of the fable, since it's about people who can't help but hurt you, even if it hurts them. And instead, it becomes a fable of somebody who takes from you, betrays you, and gets away scot-free, and isn't even responsible because it's their nature. And this struck me as the most hilariously apt example of a certain kind of very depressing Hollywood mentality. Depressing to me. And then I thought to myself, I bet that's the story that every real scorpion-natured person tells themselves. I'll sting him when I get to the other shore. I'll sting him when I get to the other shore. I can't help myself. I don't even want to, but I will. I'll sting him when I get over there. Oh, damn! I did it too soon. Oh well, I can't understand why I didn't wait till I got to the other shore. Glug, glug, glug.